Cool. Hi, how are you? We don't know what we're doing, but we do know what we're doing. I'm Emma Martin, and I am joined by Rochelle, the no nonsense naturopath. And we are just here. We thought we'd have a bit of a chat today to give you some information on A, who we are, B, what we're doing, and C, how to get you through I want to say silly season. Hopefully that's not offensive. So Rochelle, you and I met, funnily enough, at a health food shop, which I've never really stood foot in, or whatever the word is, before I started this journey. And we just hit it off immediately. So you're a naturopath. You have a business here on the Gold Coast. Tell us how you got here. Like, what was your evolution? Introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Well, hi everyone. I've got a bit of a long introduction to naturopathy. I started off, as you did, out of school into uni. I studied nuclear medicine and then went into immunology and research. Then, funnily enough, went into neurophysiology research, then left Melbourne for the Gold Coast for love, as you do, and opened a music school, because there was no research up on the Gold Coast back then. Subsequently to that, I decided that I should probably do with something with all the medical knowledge I had. So I decided to study naturopathy. When I was in the clinical settings in my earlier years in immunology, that was always very, you've got this disease and that's the end of it, and we can treat you symptomatically, but that's really the end. And I always thought back then that there was something more, like the body does have an innate ability to heal itself. So I guess that's why I was drawn to naturopathy, to, help all these people that have chronic health conditions to actually, figure out a way forward, rather than just accepting that they were going to be chronically ill for the rest of their lives. Fast forward to what I did, women's health medicine and reproductive medicine at the University of New South Wales. And I hit the shop in which I met you.
And what a fortuitous meeting that was.
It really was. I remember it very clearly. Yeah.
I think you had pink hair then ice cream. What's that?
I think you had pink hair then too.
I might have too. It wouldn't surprise me. I think I was buying donuts and ice cream.
But they were keto donuts and ice cream after I spoke to you.
Do you know that I think it was the Donata ice cream, and I proceeded to the car and I ate like half of the tub, and I was so ill afterwards, because I didn't know that if you had too much of that, it caused massive upset to your tummy.
Xylitol overload.
Yeah, the rest is history. So I know you don't like using the K word, the 4-letter K word, but describe what low carb and keto what attracted you to that, and why do you sort of go down that road?
Well, I don't really have a problem with the K word. Not quite sure where that's come from. I have a problem with dodgy keto, which a lot of the stuff that you read online is dodgy keto. But it can be very low carb diets, and keto diets can be very, very healthy, especially with the addition of beautiful vegetables, which is sometimes missed out on in the whole story. So it is a really wonderful thing to consider, because it does decrease the amount of inflammation. And I mean, realistically, that's what is a sequelae of most people's chronic health conditions, is just this body-wide inflammation that goes on.
Yeah. So I think when we were talking, sometimes you mentioned the other day that sometimes you don't tell people it's keto.
Only just people get scared by the fad, I guess, of it all. Because, there are things that come out in keto because of its health benefits, and because of the way it's been portrayed, in social media and things like that. People do get a little bit scared, but it actually can be quite beneficial. So once again, people perceive very low carb diets as being restrictive, when in fact they can be incredibly inclusive of amazing foods. It's just a bit of a mindset shift. And certainly when I'm working with clients, I don't want them to feel restrictive, because it's not meant to be a diet. It's meant to just be a way of eating that is natural to you. And, you feel so much better that you actually don't want to go back.
Oh, you're so
and
right.
I know you found that. Yeah.
Very much so. And, I only really started keto because if someone was telling me about it, I was watching other people, I started researching, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. Bacon, eggs, you know, your traditional, what you think keto is, but it's so not that. Like, it's clean food. It's coming off sugar and not so many carbohydrates. And the way I feel, I mean, you'd be the same. The way I feel when I eat heavy carbohydrates or starchy foods now, it's not good. Like, it almost feels like I've cured my body from that. Absolutely. In a way. Yeah, crazy, eh? So since we're sort of going back and forth here, let me ask you, like, this is a mad time of year. People are starting to get pretty stressed. Like, what does stress do to the body? Like, how does it sabotage? Like, if fat loss is a goal for people, how does that work? Like, how does it sabotage?
Yeah, well, look, all your organs secrete or give out hormones are all chemically linked. They're all like on a roadmap, and the body's role is to try and get that traffic all flowing freely. Now, in our general Australian state of diet, I guess, which is very high carbohydrate, and, you know, realistically, I mean, I'm not saying all carbohydrates are bad. I mean, there are some great carbohydrates that do certain things, but realistically, I mean, that makes insulin, your pancreas spit out insulin. That actually has an effect on your adrenal glands and your stress response. And you know, if you're pushing hard on the carbs, you'll also be pushing hard on your adrenal glands to secrete cortisol. And of course, that has an impact on other hormones that interact as well. So you can really, excuse me, I need to turn off my phone. This is live for you. You can really be smart with how your body reacts to stress over Christmas and things like that, because everyone's very, very busy at this time of year. So we're kind of pushing the boundaries of what our body likes to do anyway, by treating it nicely and maybe trying not to kind of overindulge. You can really help your body deal with stress.
Yeah, I think finding substitutes, you know, you're saying good carbs, bad carbs. And I don't believe there's good and there's bad. I believe there are some that are better for you than in what they do in your body than others.
Yep.
Like, I know for myself, if I have, you know, sugars or flours now, I don't feel well, and I can almost feel the insulin in my system. And I think, you know, you touched on a really interesting point about how insulin affects all the other hormones, you know, your adrenal, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what I didn't understand at the beginning was that every time my body has to deal with blood sugar, so in other words, if I'm eating sweets or sweet things or carby things, my pancreas has to release insulin. And I didn't understand that insulin was telling my body to store fat.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the biggest key. And then not only that, what you're saying is when you've got that sort of release of hormones, you've got cortisol coming in, and it's all basically a feedback loop, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And you, once again, I mean, especially over Christmas, where we want to have some treats, we're so programmed to believe that sweet is good, which, funnily enough, I actually much prefer salty. But anyway, there are some ways around doing that successfully so that you're not putting a greater toll on your body. For instance, very simply, two simple tricks. If you, Christmas dinner, for instance, and you've got all that food laid out, and you know you've got the Christmas pud at the end and the pav and whatever else you do at Christmas time, if you actually enjoy all the other meats and the veggies and all the good stuff, I should stop using the word good and bad, but all of that lovely fresh food in front of you, if you kind of fill up on that first, then you can still enjoy the sweet treats that people give you, and you can't necessarily say no, even if you wanted to. You can still enjoy that, but you won't be driven to go and get seconds or thirds or fourths because you're already full. And that's a very simple trick.
That's the best tip ever. And I think that, like, the mechanics of that, and I'm all about the science and how does it work and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I was saying about insulin before. What you're saying is fill up on all your proteins, which are going to give you satiety,
yep,
kick in your leptin hormone and give you the satiety so you're not making those quick energy choices.
Don't forget the fats with that as well. We're so trained that fats are bad. And I mean, look, that's a whole other 2-hour lecture in itself. And yeah, follow me on Facebook and I'll let you know when I'm doing that. But fats are what fill you up as well, apart from providing a substrate to actually make hormones. You need fats for hormones, people. Anyhow, I diverge. The other thing is, and it's really interesting, and it's not something that I can ever do because I always forget, but, hashtag best naturopath ever. You take a few bites of your protein before anything else, before your green beans, it doesn't matter whether it's perceived healthy or not, but if you take a bite of just your protein first, it makes your liver spurt out some glucagon, which has an anti-insulinemic effect. So it actually decreases the amount of insulin that you produce. So
eat the steak first.
Yeah. And how easy is that?
I could do that.
Absolutely. Well, you'd think I could, but I go preparing the food and eating the beans as I'm chopping them up and go, oh.
Maybe some ham as you're preparing the beans.
Ah, there you go.
There you go. So what you're saying is that if I'm going to a Christmas party, I'm perfectly fine to go snacking on the cabana and the cheese first. Sure.
Absolutely. To have that effect, by the way, I'm talking 3 bitefuls of protein. I'm not talking, you've got to have your whole steak before you eat anything else. 3 simple things to initiate your digestion has that effect.
That's amazing. What good tips. Like those tips are so helpful. I think, even if people just employ those 2 tips, I'm going to add a couple of things, like keep intermittent fasting or throw in some intermittent fasting, because you're burning all of your stored stuff in that fasting window. And then when you go eating your cheese and cabana or your 3 bites of protein, your body's going to go, oh, this is good. So you're actually going to have a completely different body type response, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And I think, sorry, you go?
No, you go. No.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, and like those of you guys watching me know that I have not been a big advocate of exercise, but what I have been doing, and I lost the bulk of my weight without exercise, because eat less, move more is so right, isn't it? That's a whole 2-hour talk as well.
Is. Go on another one of them.
We've got so many topics, we should write this down. But I make myself a playlist of 20 minutes of amazingly exciting, happy songs. And I go for a walk, jog, run for 20 minutes, fasted, which is actually going to, again, burn everything I've got stored and make my body super happy. It's going to create dopamine, all the happy feel goods. And so like those 4 things alone, you could quite easily get through the crazy season.
Absolutely not a problem. The other thing I'd like to mention, completely not, well, of course it's related, but not food so much as don't forget to drink, especially if you're having alcohol, which people do indulge in. And that in itself is another topic, but not so bad. But follow it up with a glass of water, or heaven forbid, I do know people, and I wouldn't be one of them, that puts ice in their white wine because, it's hot, it's summer and it's Queensland. We're not going there, but hydrate, because everything that you want to eat needs to be digested and everything needs to be flushed out. So don't, coffee and wine will significantly dehydrate you. So how easy is it to drink some water in between drinks?
Yeah, and actually one of the TikToks I made, the one that went viral, was about filling up 2-liter bottles of water.
Yep.
It's like, and it was like drink one of these liters before midday and drink the other one before 5 p.m. It's like, doesn't everybody do that? No, they don't.
I know people that would be lucky to have 30 mils of water a day, and it shocks me. Just so that you know, everyone out there, that there's a minimum requirement of water that your body really needs to function properly, and that would be 35 mils per kilogram. So if you want to get your trusty calculators out, for the majority of people in the 60 kg range, let's say, that is 2.5 litres. If you're more than 65 k's, that bumps up to 3. Now, I'm not suggesting anyone drinks 4 litres of water straight off the bat, but if you're only having 1 glass of water a day, you're doing your body a disservice.
And that was absolutely me a few years ago. I was drinking coffee as my liquid. So, 6, 7, 8, or maybe not 8, a lot of cups of coffee a day. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll leave it there. But guys, keep an eye on this, because we're making a podcast, and we're going to give heaps and heaps of tips for you. There's so much more to come. This is just to kind of, we'd love to know in the comments, if you are on Facebook watching this live, what would you like to hear?
Excellent. Was
What
say
tips?
that?
Yeah, give us some. There you go. We're on the same frequency, aren't we? Before we go, Rochelle, your top quick 3 tips on being gentle and not sweating the small stuff over the next month or so.
Okay. Number 1, which we've gone over, to help minimize the actual stress, the physiological stress on your body, eat proteins and fats with every carbohydrate. Okay, that's number 1. Drink enough. Don't necessarily limit your fun. Okay, obviously, you all know what you need to do. Be mindful of what you're eating, but do allow you to enjoy yourself, because, you know, saying that you can't eat this and can't eat that actually causes stress on your body too. It's a time for celebration. It's a time for family and friends. Make the most of it, but just be smart.
Yeah. And 3?
I thought that was 3. Okay. Proteins, drinking water.
Fats.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Fats. You should get enough fat. The way we cook Christmas dinner should have enough fat in it too, but never do low fat. Low fat does not help our body at all.
Oh man,
and this space if you need further clarification.
Yeah, and I mean, there is, like you said, there's a very real reason we all fear fat, but you know, like quite literally, fat gives us joint mobility. Our brains are 80% fat. Like what they told you about fat is wrong, guys.
You cannot make hormones without dietary fats. Your body really, really struggles to make hormones from its stored fat. And when it does try to make hormones from its stored fat, it puts the body under stress, which produces more need for hormones. So it's actually a vicious cycle. Eat
no
fat,
wonder we struggle.
Fat, but you don't have to overenjoy. That's another problem with, you know, the internet keto, shall we say, you know, having fat bombs, this, fat in your coffee, fat in, you don't need that much. You just need to have enough fat to make yourself feel full.
And that's the thing. I think, you know, we're also fat phobic. Those are amazing tips. Let's car park that.
Absolutely.
And talk about the food pyramid next time and why we believe that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Rochelle, thank you. No nonsense naturopath. I'm Emma. I'm the lazy keto mum, and stay tuned, guys. We'd love to hear what you would like to learn about, because between us, we have a big skill base, and we love sharing this with other people. We're both helpers, and we come from a place of love. Have the most amazing day. And anything else you want to add, Rochelle?
No, everyone stay happy, safe, and enjoy.
Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.